The laugh of the stars. The Galactic Council had long laughed at the idea of humans. To them, Earth was a myth, a story passed down through generations, filled with tales of gods, heroes, and ancient warriors who fought epic battles. For centuries, humans had been forgotten, their once great civilization nothing more than a legend. In the heart of the Council, deep within the grand chambers of the Council Hall, the leaders of the galaxy gathered. They mocked Earth's old stories. How could a primitive species like humans ever have any real impact? The idea of Earth having once held power was laughable. The aliens of the galaxy had long since learned that humans were weak, inferior, and most likely wiped out in some forgotten war. Their ancient relics, floating in the dark, were nothing more than scraps of a lost age. Among the many alien species in the Council, there was one young historian. His name was Selkor, a sharp and ambitious member of the Yalakra race. Unlike the others, Selkor found himself fascinated by the myth of humans. He had spent years digging through old records, researching anything related to Earth. While others scoffed at the idea, Selkor had a nagging suspicion that there was more to the myth than anyone knew. One day, while sifting through ancient transmissions, Selkor stumbled upon something unusual, a faint signal. It wasn't just random noise or some forgotten transmission from eons ago. This one was different. The message seemed purposeful, encrypted in an old Earth language. Intrigued, Selkor began to decode it. For days, he worked tirelessly, sending messages back and forth, trying to unravel the mystery of the signal. Slowly, piece by piece, the message began to form. To Selkor's amazement, it was a distress call, but not like anything he had seen before. It was a warning, sent from Earth. The message was clear, direct, and chilling. It read, "We are still here, and we are coming back." Selkor's hands trembled as he read the message. He had never believed in the human myths, but now he wasn't so sure. He felt a cold shiver run down his spine. He quickly ran to the Council with his findings. When he reached the Grand Hall, the other members were already gathered, engaged in idle chatter. As he entered, his heart pounded in his chest. They didn't realize the gravity of what was happening. Council members, Selkor's voice rang through the hall, cutting through the noise. "I have found something. Something from Earth." The room grew silent. The Council looked at him with confusion, their faces blank. Selkor paused, took a deep breath, and spoke again. "It's a signal. A message sent from Earth. They are not gone. They are still alive, and they are coming back." The laughter that followed was immediate. One of the older Council members, a Zilfar from the Othos system, chuckled deeply. "You actually believe this nonsense, Selkor? Earth is gone. Wiped out. Their stories are just fables. You have wasted your time." But Selkor stood his ground. "I know what I found. The signal was real. Earth isn't just a myth, it's a warning." The Council laughed louder now. Some even slapped their knees in amusement. How foolish Selkor seemed to them, so wrapped up in the past. The galaxy had moved on long ago. Humans had no place in their world anymore. The days of their great civilization were nothing but dust. The myths they had left behind were of no importance. But something in Selkor's voice made the Council uneasy. There was a cold certainty in his words, and something more. The message he had decoded was only the beginning. While the others laughed and dismissed him, Selkor couldn't shake the feeling that they were all missing something crucial. He returned to his station in secret, pulling up every piece of data he could find on Earth. His eyes darted across the screen as he sifted through ancient files, pulling up every scrap of information from the long-forgotten human age. Then he found something even more unsettling. According to records, the last known human ship had sent out a signal just before the war between the galactic empires had begun. It had been a call for help, but no one had answered. Earth had fallen into silence. Yet here, now, was a fresh signal, carrying the same tone of urgency. Zelkor could feel his heart race again. He had to know more. He couldn't let this go. What if the myths were true? What if the humans had not disappeared, but had been hiding all these years, waiting for the right moment to return? Suddenly, the room around him seemed to grow colder, darker. For the first time in a long while, Zelkor wondered if the galaxy had truly underestimated Earth. The laughter of the council still echoed in his ears, but in his mind, he could only hear one thing, the chilling warning from the message. We are still here, and we are coming back. The sound of that message haunted him. Was it a threat or a promise? As the council continued to dismiss him, Zelkor made a decision. He would find the truth. Whether the galaxy believed it or not, he would uncover the secret of Earth's survival. And he would not stop until he did. Little did the council know, their laughter would soon turn into fear. Earth's return was no longer a myth. It was a reality, and it was coming for them. The days following Zelkor's warning were filled with tension and disbelief. The Galactic Council continued to dismiss his findings, laughing at the idea that humanity had somehow survived. To the Council, the myths of Earth were just that, stories passed down through generations. The universe had moved on, and the idea that humans could still be a threat seemed utterly impossible. But Zelkor could not let go of the message. It gnawed at him, and he spent his nights digging deeper into the forgotten corners of galactic history. The more he searched, the more he uncovered. He found ancient logs from ships that had passed through the remnants of Earth's once thriving solar system. All of them reported nothing. No life signs, no human activity. Earth had been marked as a dead world, erased from the map. Still, Zelkor couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story. The signal wasn't just a relic of the past. It was alive, persistent, and urgent. Whoever had sent it, they wanted something. Or perhaps they were warning the galaxy of something to come. The young historian knew that if he was going to convince the council, he needed more evidence. He needed to show them that Earth's disappearance wasn't just a forgotten chapter of history. It was the beginning of something far greater. And with each passing hour, his doubts about the council's arrogance grew stronger. Late one evening, as the lights of his small quarters flickered, Zelkor made an important discovery. He had cracked another part of the signal, one that seemed to contain encrypted coordinates. These weren't just random numbers. They pointed to a location deep in the galaxy, far beyond any known space, a place where even the most advanced ships dared not venture. The coordinates led to a hidden sector, a place where records were scarce. Ships that had ventured near this region had reported nothing but darkness, as though the very space around it had been erased from the universe's memory. This wasn't just an anomaly. This was something intentionally hidden. Zelkor knew he had to act fast. He couldn't rely on the council anymore. They were too busy laughing at a myth to see the reality unfolding before their eyes. But Zelkor wasn't like the others. He believed in the human myth, and now he was determined to prove it. Using his access to the council's database, he began to secretly send messages to old human colonies that had been scattered across the galaxy. There were whispers of small groups of humans who had escaped the Great War, survivors who had hidden themselves away, biding their time. Zelkor's hope was that one of these colonies had survived, and that they could provide the answers he so desperately sought. Days turned into weeks, and Zelkor continued to investigate. His obsession with Earth's survival consumed him, and the more he uncovered, the more the galaxy's view of Earth seemed wrong. The myths were not just stories. They were warnings, reminders of a forgotten power that the universe had recklessly disregarded. It wasn't long before Zelkor received a response. A small human colony, hidden on the edge of the galaxy, had intercepted his message. Their reply was short, but to the point. "We have waited. The fleet is coming. We will return." The reply sent chills down Zelkor's spine. The message was clear. The humans were alive, and they were no longer the weak, primitive species the galaxy had once believed them to be. They had survived. They had built, and now they were preparing to return. The implications of this discovery were enormous. The galaxy's most feared species, the ones who had wiped out entire civilizations without a second thought, had underestimated the humans. They had underestimated Earth. Zelkor knew that time was running out. If the Council didn't take this seriously, they would regret it. He had to find a way to convince them. The galaxy needed to know that the humans were coming, and they were not the same species that had once been laughed at and forgotten. They were warriors, survivors, and now they were ready to fight. As Zelkor prepared to present his findings, he felt a growing sense of dread. The humans were not just returning to reclaim their lost world. They were returning to reclaim their place in the galaxy. The myth of Earth was over. The reality was just beginning. He was no longer alone in his belief. The small human colony had offered him their support, sending him a powerful message that they had a fleet ready to launch. A fleet that could rival anything the galaxy had ever seen. And then, Zelkor found something even more chilling, an ancient human worship schematic. It was a design unlike anything the galaxy had ever encountered. The ship was built for power, for speed, and for war. If this was what humans were capable of now, then the galaxy was in far more danger than they could possibly imagine. The galaxy's laughter was about to end. Zelkor knew that the Council would have no choice but to listen to him now. But would it be too late by then? Would the galaxy's arrogance cost them everything? Only time would tell, but one thing was clear. The humans had returned, and they were no longer a myth. They were a force to be reckoned with. Zelkor stood in the council chambers, the heavy silence weighing on him as he waited for the council to begin their meeting. The usual chattering of the council members had died down when he entered, and their disinterested gazes turned toward him. Most of them still dismissed the idea that humanity had survived, but Zelkor knew what he had to do. The evidence was clear, and it was time to show them that the galaxy's most feared species had made a grave mistake by laughing at the myths of Earth. The walls of the chamber flickered as a holographic display appeared before him. It showed the encrypted coordinates he had discovered, the mysterious location that seemed to have been erased from all known maps. His heart pounded in his chest as he prepared to reveal the truth about humanity's survival. Counselors, you have all laughed at Earth's myths. Zelkor began, his voice steady but full of urgency. You have called them mere stories, nothing more than forgotten fables. But what I have uncovered proves otherwise. Humanity did not perish. They survived, they'd rebuilt, and now they are coming back. There was a brief murmur of disbelief, but Zelkor continued, his eyes focused on the counselors. He brought up the next hologram, the intercepted message from the human colony. The humans have a fleet, Zelkor said, pointing to the image that displayed the coordinates he had uncovered. This message was sent from a hidden colony, one that has been waiting for the right moment to strike. They have been biding their time, preparing for the moment when they would return to the galaxy and reclaim their place. A few counselors exchanged skeptical glances, but Zelkor was ready for this. He activated the next display, an ancient human worship schematic. The design was unlike anything they had ever seen, sleek, powerful, and built for warfare. This, Zelkor said, is the kind of ship humanity is capable of building. This schematic was found in their records, and it is only the beginning. What we are looking at is not just a warship. It's a symbol of their resurgence. They are coming, and they are not the helpless species we thought they were. The room went silent, and Zelkor felt the weight of his words hanging in the air. The council members seemed to be processing the information, their skepticism slowly giving way to a dawning realization. Humanity had not only survived, they had evolved into something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. One of the counselors, a seasoned veteran of galactic warfare, spoke up. This is impossible, he said, shaking his head. The humans were nothing more than pests. We wiped them out, erased them from history. How could they have built a fleet in secret? Zelkor's eyes narrowed. You underestimated them, he said, his voice low and filled with conviction. "And now, you will pay the price. The humans have learned from their past mistakes. They are no longer the scattered, disorganized species you remember. They have united. They have adapted. And now, they are ready to fight." The counselor sneered. "Fight against the entire galaxy. The humans are nothing more than a myth. This is just a fantasy." Zelkor didn't flinch. He had anticipated this. He brought up the final hologram, a live feed from a distant galaxy where the human fleet was assembling. Ships of all sizes and designs were slowly emerging from hidden shipyards, their sleek hulls gleaming in the cold light of space. "Do you still think this is a fantasy?" Zelkor asked, his voice steady as the room fell into stunned silence. The hologram zoomed in on the ships, showing their detailed design, their massive weapons, and their sheer size. The ships were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen before. Humans had taken the knowledge they had accumulated and built a fleet powerful enough to challenge the might of any galactic empire. The counselors were no longer laughing. They were no longer scoffing at the idea of humans returning to the galactic stage. They were beginning to realize the terrible truth. Zelkor was right. The humans had done the impossible. "Impossible," one counselor muttered, her voice filled with disbelief. "How could they do this?" "They didn't do it alone," Zelkor replied. "They had help. And that help comes from the very people you've enslaved, the races you've trampled underfoot. Humanity united them. They gave the galaxy a glimpse of what true unity and power can achieve." The council members looked around at one another, their faces filled with doubt and fear. Zelkor could see the realization dawning in their eyes. The universe was about to change. The humans were no longer just a myth. They were a rising power, and their fleet was coming. "The time for ignoring Earth is over," Zelkor said, his voice calm but filled with a new, undeniable strength. "The humans are returning, and they will make their mark on the galaxy. The galaxy that once turned its back on them will soon face their wrath." A heavy silence fell over the room. The members of the Galactic Council had no words to counter what Zelkor had presented. They could no longer deny the truth. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. The hum of the council chambers faded into an uneasy silence as the images of humanity's Warfleet burned into the minds of the counselors. The ships were real, and they were coming. But it wasn't just the fleet that haunted their thoughts. It was the undeniable reality that the humans were no longer the weak, fractured species they had once believed them to be. Zelkor watched as the counselors exchanged glances, their earlier confidence crumbling. They had laughed at humanity's resilience, dismissed their myths, and underestimated their potential. But now, in the face of undeniable proof, they were confronted with a terrifying truth. Humanity had not only survived, they had thrived. "We cannot ignore this any longer," Zelkor said, his voice filled with a newfound sense of urgency. "The humans have built a fleet that rivals anything the galaxy has ever seen. Their warships are armed with weapons we've never encountered. And their tactics." A counselor, who had been silent until now, interrupted. "This is madness. The humans were scattered and fractured. How could they possibly unite a fleet of this size, let alone build it in secret?" Zelkor's eyes narrowed. "They didn't build it in isolation," he replied. "The humans have rallied the lost and the oppressed, uniting entire species under their banner. They are no longer scattered. They are one force, and they are more than capable of striking." The counselor scoffed, but there was no conviction in his voice. Zelkor could see the fear beginning to take root in the council members. The reality was sinking in. They had never anticipated this level of power from humanity. Another counselor, an older figure with deep-set eyes, spoke up. "What is their strategy? How do they plan to take on the galaxy?" Zelkor paused, letting the question hang in the air before responding. "They don't plan to take on the galaxy all at once. Their strategy is calculated, focused. They will strike at the heart of the strongest empires, the ones that have dominated the galaxy for centuries. They know that their best chance lies in dividing us, creating chaos, and picking us off one by one. The older counselor's face grew pale. "Divide and conquer," he murmured. "It's a classic tactic, but no one has ever pulled it off at this scale. That's exactly why we can't underestimate them." Selkor said, "Humanity is resourceful. They've learned from every battle they've fought, and they've grown stronger with each victory. They are no longer the weak species we once thought." The holographic display flickered, showing the exact locations of the warships, now moving in formation toward the edge of the galaxy. The ships were converging, and the sheer size of their fleet was enough to send a chill through the room. Zelkor's hand hovered over the console, and the image zoomed in on one of the largest ships, the flagship of the fleet. Its name was carved into the hull, the Resurgence. It was a massive vessel, its silhouette dark and imposing against the backdrop of stars. On board, humanity's most brilliant engineers and strategists had devised weapons and tactics that would change the course of the war. "This ship," Selkor said, his voice laced with awe, "is the heart of their fleet. It's a symbol of their return to power. The Resurgence will lead the charge, and its weapons are unlike anything we've seen before." A cold shiver ran through the room as the counselors absorbed the weight of Selkor's words. Their arrogance had clouded their judgment, but now it was clear. Humanity was not to be underestimated. They had learned, adapted, and united in a way that no one had expected. "We must act quickly," one of the counselors said, his voice low but filled with fear. "If we wait too long, humanity will be upon us before we have a chance to retaliate." Zelkor nodded. "It's already too late to stop them. But we can still fight back. The humans may be powerful, but they are not invincible. We must unite. We must prepare." Another counselor stood up, his face filled with determination. "We will mobilize our fleets. We will show the humans that the galaxy is not theirs to take." But Selkor shook his head. "It's not just about mobilizing fleets," he said. "The humans have learned how to fight smarter, not harder. They will use our own weaknesses against us. They will strike when we least expect it, in ways that will turn our own alliances against us." The counselors sat in stunned silence, each one processing the enormity of the situation. The galaxy had always been ruled by power, by force. But now, the balance was shifting. Humanity's Warfleet was a threat unlike any the galaxy had faced before, and Selkor knew that unless the galaxy acted as one, they were doomed. The council began to prepare for what was coming, but Selkor couldn't help but feel a sense of dread settle in his chest. The battle for the galaxy had only just begun, and humanity had already made their mark. There was no going back. The galaxy had never felt so still. For centuries, its inhabitants had lived in a delicate balance, each empire carving out its space, confident in their unchallenged dominance. But as the warships of humanity neared, that peace shattered. The quiet was replaced by the hum of fear, the rush of preparations, and the undeniable knowledge that the galaxy had underestimated the humans. And now, there was no turning back. Zelkor stood before the Grand Council table, the silence pressing down on him. He had lived through countless battles, fought wars, and seen empires rise and fall, but nothing had prepared him for what was unfolding. Humanity had come from nothing to this, an unstoppable force that now had the power to challenge the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The thought weighed heavily on his mind. They had been wrong to dismiss the humans. The council chamber had become a battleground of words, each counselor arguing their strategy. But amid their discussions, one thing was certain: the humans had forced the galaxy to reckon with them. "We've underestimated them," one of the counselors said, his voice strained. "Their fleet is unlike any we've ever seen. It's not just size, it's precision. They are ready to fight." Zelkor nodded, his gaze hardening as he looked over the council. "It's more than just the fleet. It's their tactics, their resourcefulness. The humans will strike when and where we least expect it. They've learned from every war they've fought in the past. They know how to take advantage of our weaknesses. The room filled with murmurs of agreement. The counselors were no longer questioning whether the humans were a threat. They were scrambling to figure out how to survive. But no matter how much they prepared, Selkor knew the battle would be brutal. The humans were ready, and they were out for revenge. Across the galaxy, humanity's fleet continued its march, gathering strength and momentum with every passing day. The Resurgence, their flagship, led the charge, an awe-inspiring sight, its weapons glowing ominously in the dark void of space. And on board, humanity's finest strategists, engineers, and warriors prepared for the upcoming war, determined to show the galaxy that they had been wrong to dismiss them. Commander Lyra, the leader of the human fleet, stood on the bridge of the Resurgence, staring out at the distant stars. Her mind raced with thoughts of what was to come. The fleet had been assembled in secret, built from the ashes of a planet once thought destroyed. Humanity had endured, and now they would fight for their place in the galaxy. "Commander, the first targets are in range," a voice called from behind her. Lyra turned to face her officer, who was standing by the communications console. "Ready the fleet," she said, her voice calm but filled with purpose. "Send the message to the galaxy. Let them know that humanity is here. We will not be ignored any longer." As the message was broadcast across the stars, the humans' warships moved into position. It wasn't just a military strike. It was a declaration that humanity, the species once thought weak, was now a force to be reckoned with, and they would make their mark on the galaxy. But as the Resurgence powered up its weapons and prepared to make its first strike, the Council of the Galaxy's most powerful empires had intense anticipation. They had no idea what was coming for them. The humans were no longer the myth they had laughed at. They were a reality, and they had come to show the galaxy their power. The first blast rang out, a thunderous sound that sent shockwaves through space. It wasn't just a warning shot, it was the first of many. The human fleet had launched its attack, and the galaxy would never be the same again. As Selkor watched the chaos unfold from the council chambers, he knew there was no way to prepare for what was to come. Humanity was not just fighting for survival. They were fighting to be heard, to reclaim their place in the galaxy. And no matter how hard the galaxy tried to fight back, the humans had proven they could never be underestimated again. The first battle had begun, and humanity was already making its mark on the galaxy. The galaxy had thought they could turn their back on humanity, laugh at their myths, and dismiss their legends. But the war had started, and the humans were not going down without a fight. It was just the beginning. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson it would never forget.